Hello, everybody. Queen's kind of dark. Sorry about that. Um, this commentary is pertaining to Kaitlin Armstrong. Her defense is basically saying that there is possibly a third wheel involved in this murder of Miss Wilson. She's been charged with murdering a woman that was seeing her boyfriend. And Court TV is going to chop up the situation pertaining to Kaitlin, the boyfriend, and Miss Wilson, who is no longer alive. You're entitled to your opinion if you believe that she killed this woman or if perhaps Miss Wilson's ex is involved. Yes, a gentleman has now been entered into the storyline. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. If you'd like to donate to the channel, this network, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. All super chats and stickers are welcome during this live. Thank you so much for joining me in this late morning. Court TV is the source. Love triangle, murder. A deep dive into the case against Kaitlin Armstrong, Vinnie Politan.
It's on Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight. You know, when you talk about murder cases, there are different types of motives, but one of the oldest in the book is jealousy, broken heart. However you want to term it, but someone is involved with someone and something happens and there is an emotion that takes over, logic goes out the door, and bad things happen. I've seen it many times in my career at Court TV. Probably most notably with someone who was crazy jealous. Jodi Arias. Remember her? From Arizona. I know you don't forget Jodi Arias from Arizona. She just like head over heels in love with Travis Alexander, but then it became something completely different, like obsession. And when he tried to create a little bit of space, she wouldn't give him the space. I mean, she would drive hours and then crawl through the doggy door of his house to be with him. And again, he tried to, no, that's okay, we're done, let's move on. She couldn't move on. And then when Travis Alexander was going to take a trip to Hawaii with another woman, we know what happened to Travis Alexander, and we know who did it, and we know who's serving life in prison because of her crazy jealousy. Now, in the case of the murder of Mo Wilson, we have another case involving what many people are calling a love triangle in this case, because you've got Kaitlin Armstrong, the accused murderer, is in a relationship with Colin Strickland, who's also a cyclist. But then there's another cyclist who Colin Strickland has some sort of a relationship with. You know, these parts aren't 100% clear at this point, getting different signals from different people on this, but you know, you've got two women, one man. And now one woman is dead and the other has been accused of her murder. Classic love triangle, right? You know, you're not going to take my man from me. That's what prosecutors will argue in the case. But now we may have something different. After Kaitlin Armstrong's attorney spoke, they mentioned a fourth person. And is all this going to go from some sort of a love triangle to a love rectangle where there's someone else who maybe should be investigated or someone else who the defense may point the finger at? I mean, it's possible. You watch the trials here on Court TV. There's always some other story that you're going to hear. And from the defense, they said, listen, you haven't heard it. There is someone else who was involved with the victim in this case. And was that the person who was acting in a jealous rage and took it out not on the person who was seeing his ex, but took it out on his ex? I mean, it's not an outrageous theory, but I don't know what the evidence is that supports it. But clearly, this is kind of where this case is going. It's not just the three. There may be a fourth wheel involved in this whole thing that the jury may have to figure out at trial. Let me play for you what Kaitlin Armstrong's attorney said in his press conference.
I'll say just a few words today because I do understand that there's intense media interest in Kaitlin Armstrong's case. I know that you'll have a lot of questions, and there will be a time and a place to answer those questions, but not today.
Okay.
There's a big picture here. This is a beginning of a process that will play out in court. And it
Kind of dark, sorry.
And we understand that there are questions that need to be answered. And we look forward to doing so. But we also have some questions of our own. What you saw in that courtroom today was illuminating. Ms. Armstrong wants her day in court. She wants a trial. And you heard the district attorney threaten sanctions over her desire for a trial. As a matter of course, cases should not be indicted if prosecutors are not prepared to proceed. But we have some questions. Why did the Austin Police Department seemingly ignore a tip about the former boyfriend of Miss Wilson? Why did the Austin Police Department present inaccurate and misleading information to a judge when seeking an arrest warrant of Miss Armstrong? Did the inexperience of two key officers assigned to this case play a role in its apparent mishandling? Who vandalized the home of Kaitlin Armstrong and Colin Strickland the night of Wilson's death? And why? Unfortunately, a lot of the information that's been presented so far in the media is simply not accurate. I understand that reporters frequently will get information from so-called law enforcement sources. The police have a vested interest in painting a picture that supports their initial assumptions and actions. Law enforcement sources also might have an interest in glossing over details that could be of interest and relatable to their mistakes in the initial hours of this unfortunate situation, terrible situation. All I can ask of the press here is that you not consider everything told to you by law enforcement as confirmed and reportable facts. Simply put, there is a lot more to this story than has yet been heard. We will file motions challenging this investigation and challenging the conduct of the Austin Police Department. We look forward to this legal process ahead and these issues being heard in a court of law.
Strong statements. And let me just say that we don't.
Let me stop right there because I'm going to have to interject. This is about 40-something minutes long. Did police get this wrong? Do they have the wrong suspect? Is there somebody else responsible for the death of Miss Wilson, Miss Moe? Were the officers inexperienced that handling this case? Went to the scene. Are we talking about police officers or are we speaking of detectives? Who are they speaking of? Is this fluff? Because it's been said that the woman's car was at the scene, Armstrong. So you have to count who saw her coming and going out of this person's house. How did she get in the house? Are there cameras to show that she went up to the door, went inside, came out? Doorbell cameras, many people have them now. So you have to count all of that. What will be introduced into evidence by the state? And that's the gist of the story pertaining to crime. It is the burden of the state to prove a person's guilt, not the defense. Is there a fourth wheel in this triangle? Is this, as Vinny says, a rectangle box? Is there a fourth party? Did someone see a man go in to this home, come out? I think the worst part of the story is the obvious. It's alleged that she was in the neighborhood. There's surveillance of her car on the street the night of the murder. So you're going to have to, what? Prove why her car would be seen on a surveillance camera on the street where the victim died. And as I said, you don't know what other surveillance they have, the state. as far as coming and goings out of that house. You don't know if the house itself had surveillance cameras inside or outside. Neighbors adjoining the property, if they have cameras facing the street where the cars are parked, cameras facing the house itself. Now imagine implicating an innocent man as a suspect during trial, and then later, voila, the state comes out with proof showing the woman went in and out of that house. Stay woke. Thank you for joining me. It's Everyday Shenanigans.
We don't take what prosecutors say as fact. We say, all right, that's what prosecutors are going to argue. Well, what is the evidence that backs it up? It's all about the evidence at the end of the day. And the evidence is physical evidence. It can be things, it can be forensics, it can be videos, it can be eyewitnesses who have information.
Exactly.
All of that is what needs to be considered.
Yes.
But he said one thing that's really important. He said, there is a lot more to this story. And that's where we are in our coverage of the story, is trying to find out as much as possible. So let's start with Kaitlin Armstrong and find out a little bit more about this defendant and her life. Joining me now in New York City, senior news reporter for the U.S. Sun, Romania Rodriguez is with us. Romania, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time. I know the Sun has been digging deep into this story, as they always do. Tell us a little bit more about Kaitlin Armstrong, what you found out about her. She's taken trips to other places like Bali, what her friends are saying. What can you tell us about Kaitlin Armstrong as we try to find out tonight more about this story?
That's right. So as it's been widely reported, Kaitlin Armstrong is an avid yoga enthusiast, and she also has taught yoga. It seems this is a fundamental part of her life. As a matter of fact, she traveled to Bali back in 2018 to participate in a month-long intensive teaching course. One of the people who studied in this course with Armstrong spoke to us at the U.S. Sun, and she had some interesting things to say about the way Armstrong behaved in this yoga course. She told us that she had told the group during a group session that she traveled to Bali because there was something back at home in Austin, Texas that she wanted to change. This person that spoke to us saying that Kaitlin didn't really specify what exactly it was that she wasn't happy with back home, but that it was sure that she was battling some sort of demons that she was trying to escape in Bali. Now, this classmate also shared a weird incident that happened during her time with Armstrong in Bali. She said the group was out to dinner one night and that Armstrong started having a panic attack over an allergic reaction that she was having to some food that she ate. Apparently, she started showing a rash on her chest that made her really freak out, as this person described it, and start shaking and hyperventilating. Now, the person who chose to remain anonymous while speaking to us claimed that this was a really big overreaction, and it happened fairly early on in this trip to Bali. This person said that after Armstrong showed this sort of volatile behavior, that she stayed away from her during the remaining of the time in Bali. She also described Armstrong as very quiet and reserved, and said that while a big part of the group had remained in touch on a WhatsApp group after the trip, that Armstrong really didn't participate in these conversations with her former classmates.
And you talk about the fact that
I'm going to intervene. What was it that she was running away from, possibly in 18? They say that she's been dating this guy for a couple of years. So is it the current boyfriend? Were they having problems in 18? She needed to get away 1 month. 1 month is a long time to go away to do anything, anywhere. Especially if you're not working. You're not taking care of a sick person, parent, child. So 1 month away in a foreign country is a long time. What was she getting away from? Let's say, indeed, she killed this lady. Why didn't she think to do that when she was having all these problems with him last fall, when allegedly he was messing around with Miss Mo? Why not take another trip somewhere? Hey, I need to go clear my head, get myself together. Why not take a trip last fall when you found out he was seeing someone else? Did she kill Mo Wilson? If she killed this woman, why couldn't she walk away? This person said she was acting erratic on this trip because she had eaten something that caused a rash. What exactly was she doing? Cussing, fussing, wailing in the floor, falling around? What was she doing exactly? See, I don't like open-ended content. Explain to the queen what exactly she was doing. She became volatile. Volatile how? Cussing, ranting, raving, jumping up and down in the seat, turning up stuff on the table. What? Throwing things. What? Hollering and screaming. What? Pulling her hair out. What? What is considered volatile? Ranting, raving, screaming, hollering, crying. What? She doesn't even specify. She didn't keep in touch or conversate during the group. Maybe she didn't want to. Maybe she was in a funk. That was the reason why she went on the trip in the first place. There's no harm in that. The next conversation is she was quiet. So she's a quiet person, but acted erratic when she broke out in a rash. Well, I think most people will probably be upset if you start swelling up, your chest is breaking out, your face starts breaking out, swelling up. You probably feel some type of way, especially the fact that you're on vacation or on some type of trip to get away from your problems. Now you're looking like a swelled up fish. You probably feel some type of way. And what was it exactly that she ate that made her break out? Just curious. She didn't conversate much. So she didn't conversate in the conversations. Well, if indeed she broke out, what would she have to talk about? Just saying. Not to defend this woman who's possibly a murderer, but just saying. If indeed she wasn't talking after the breakout, what would she have to talk about? Why would she want to engage in conversation if she swelled up in the chest, face, wherever? She wouldn't want to talk. She wouldn't want to talk. I don't think you would want to talk either. And did they all keep in contact after the trip? Is that what the problem is? She didn't converse during the trip. She didn't converse after the trip was over. Just curious.
It's all about the yoga. I mean, when she was a fugitive from justice, she's the first fugitive I've ever covered with a yoga mat. There she is at the airport, Marshal Service, with the photos, the surveillance video. She literally has a yoga mat on her back as she is fleeing from justice, eventually tracked down, teaching yoga, of course. I want to talk to you also about something we ever...
Let's discuss the yoga mat. Why are you carrying a yoga mat? Shouldn't you be trying to be not so obvious? Did she plan to continue her yoga practices in the next place she was going? What's this pre-plan where she ended up? Or did she just go to New York and then picked a place once she got to New York? Whose ID did she use? Because they said she used someone's ID. Whose ID was it? And why did that person give her ID to use? Will that person also be liable for aiding a fugitive? Or did she make a fake ID in someone else's name? Which is it? Why go on the run? Question number one. You have nothing to hide. You didn't murder this woman. She left what, the next day? Or sold the car rather, after being interrogated. What was said in that interrogation room? Somebody said something she didn't like. And could it have been something like this? Ma'am, we know you killed this lady. But then one would say, well, why didn't they arrest her? Or did they allude to the fact that they knew she killed the woman, but just didn't have a warrant to arrest her at that time? She knew it was coming, so she sold her car, got an ID, jumped the plane to one location, then another location. How did she think she was going to stay on the run with what little money she took? Because you're talking about a short window to plan out being a fugitive. And one thing about being a fugitive is you have to change the things that you normally do. Such as you like yoga, you don't do yoga. You understand? That's your old life. Your new life shouldn't consist of doing yoga or even being an instructor. You understand what I'm saying? But as I said, people don't understand that going on the run is a real job. People do it all the time, but it's not what you think, because you have to conform to a different way of living and talking and acting and breathing, not what you were doing over here before you went on the run. I do not think Kaitlin was ready to be on the run. To me, she showed she was guilty. They said something to her in that interrogation room. She realized they were going to be coming back with a warrant because she knew she had murdered this woman. So she left, sold her car, and let's keep it real. In a day and age like this, high economy, why would anyone sell their car? See, she was doing things to show she was guilty. No sane, logical, innocent human being would, 1, sell their car, 2, get fake ID, 3, dye their hair, 4, jump a plane to another city, East Coast, then fly to a foreign country. You would not do that if you were innocent. You would fight tooth and nail. And if she had support, as has been stated, then they would have told her, after talking to her, because common sense, she had to have told someone what was going on. Hey, we're going to work this out. Hey, we got your back. Hey, we got your bond. Don't worry about it. We'll do what we need to do to get you free, to prove you are innocent. That's what an innocent person would do. They would stand firm to prove their innocence. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.
You've heard a lot about, and that's Colin Strickland, who is, if in fact prosecutors are correct that this is some sort of a love triangle, he's the man in the middle. What do we know about Colin Strickland?
So that's...
And yes, left that out. You wouldn't have had plastic surgery either. You will see the photos of her before and after. She looks like a totally different person with darker hair. And yes, you can see that something's different in the facial features. Thank you very much, Small Fries.
It's very interesting. As you said, Strickland is the man at the center of this alleged love triangle. Now, as you mentioned, he's also a cyclist, and he has remained fairly quiet on this whole case. However, we do know that he was in an on and off relationship with Kaitlin Armstrong for years and years. Now, he has very much denied that he was having an affair with Wilson at the time of her murder. However, we at the U.S. Sun did speak to Strickland, and he said that he did have a fling with Wilson. However, he claims that it happened in October of 2021 while he and Armstrong were on a break from their relationship. Strickland claims that Armstrong knew that he was seeing other women and that Armstrong herself had been seeing other men. However, in our interview with Strickland, he kind of called out police and said that the police records, the affidavit that implies that he had been having an affair with Wilson at the time of her murder is skewed. Now, of course, we know that Armstrong and Strickland were back together at the time of Wilson's murder. Not only were they together, but they were living at the same Austin, Texas home where police say they found a gun that matched the shell casings at the scene of the murder. So, as we know, police say that Armstrong shot Wilson after Strickland had dropped her back off at her friend's house. We also know Wilson, again, is not from Texas. She's from Vermont, and she had been in the state because she was going to attend a competition that, by the way, she was expected to win. And in this cycling world is where Strickland and Wilson met. By the way, Wilson's family has also been very clear, saying that Wilson had told the people close to her that she was not in a relationship at the time of her death.
It's fascinating.
Let me stop there. He denies, the boyfriend, that he was seeing this woman up until the murder. But he and Kaitlin were on and off in the fall when he met this woman, blah, blah, blah. They had their love affair. It was over. Is that the truth? Is he telling the truth? Is he ashamed to tell the truth that, no, I never stopped seeing her. I am the reason why she went off the deep end and killed Mo Wilson. I'm to blame, but I can't tell you all that because I'm ashamed. Is he lying? Was he actually broke up with Armstrong in the fall? Her family, Miss Wilson, is saying she wasn't seeing anybody up until her death. How do you know that? How do you know what she was doing? Maybe she didn't want to tell you that she was liking a guy who had a girlfriend, had feelings with another woman. on and off, on and off? Why were they on and off for years? That's a very good question. Why did Kaitlin stay with a man that she was going on and off with, on and off? And how can you be on and off and living in the same house with somebody? So now you have to ask that question. Were they living in separate places during this on and off? Because I don't know anybody that can keep moving in, moving out, go get a place, in and out. So when they were off, where were they living in the fall? Did any of you think about that? Where were this Colin and this Armstrong woman living when they were off in October? I'll wait. Did he move out of their home, apartment, house? If he did, where did he go? How long was he dating Miss Mo? And if he left their home, how long was he gone? When did he get back in good favor with Armstrong? What led Armstrong to approach this woman and kill her? We now have introduced a gun with the same casings at the scene of the crime, matches a gun found in their house. So who actually owned the gun? The boyfriend or Miss Armstrong? Why would you leave the gun there, knowing it could be tied to this lady? This lady could be tied to your boyfriend. Or are you hoping they think your boyfriend did it? That's why I'm asking, whose gun was it? Was she hoping that they would think the boyfriend did it? He's been sleeping with her. His gun. Whose fingerprints are on the gun? Boyfriend or Miss Armstrong's? Did she kill Mo Wilson? Why did she kill her? Did she think they were still dating? It is alleged that they were together. Colin and this woman, Miss Mo, the decedent. Why did they meet up for lunch, dinner, whatever? Did she follow him, track him, tracking device on his phone? Followed him. Oh, he's caught. He's been lying to me. He's a dog. I want her dead. Why not him? We've learned with true crime, people pick and choose who they want to be dead. In this case, if indeed Miss Armstrong killed Mo Wilson, she wanted the rivalry dead, not the boyfriend. But we see in cases like this, he would have continued to be on and off until one of them folded out of the relationship. And who would it have been? Kaitlin or Colin? Why couldn't one leave the other one alone for good? What was the cause of their problems in their relationship? Infidelity, money woes, jealousy, not compatible, traveling back and forth, cycling, what? Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.
Because now the defense is saying that, there's another former boyfriend in the picture. She's not in a relationship in this love triangle. But what exactly was going on? It'll all play out in court. There's going to be two different versions of all of it. But Hermania Rodriguez from the U.S. Sun, senior news reporter, great information tonight. Appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's bring our next guest joining us in Salt Lake City, Utah, retired police commander and host of the Profiling Evil podcast, Mike King, back with us. Mike, thanks so much. Great to see you as well. Let's talk a little bit about the victim here, Mo Wilson. I have some information about her I want to put up on the screen. Just 25 years old. As Hermione was talking about, from the New England area, born in Littleton, New Hampshire, Vermont resident, received a BA in engineering from Dartmouth College, professional bike racer, alpine skier, just an amazing athlete. Was working to create a community space in Eastburg, Vermont for bikers to gather. And then let's get to a statement from Mo Wilson's family, and Hermione talked about this as well. While we will not elaborate about the ongoing investigation, we do feel it's important to clarify that at the time of her death, those closest to her clearly understood directly from Mariah that she was not in a romantic relationship with anyone. So, where does that leave us here, Mike? Something was going on here, right? I mean, the prosecutors are saying that it's a love triangle.
Now we have Profiling Evil speaking.
How are you seeing, Mo Wilson's life at the time of her horrendous or horrible murder?
Well, clearly we know that she's had several relationships along the way, as any 25-year-old probably does. She's active in the community. She's out and about. She's popular. She's beautiful. But here's the thing that's so interesting. When people come out like family and say, hey, there's just no way that she was doing this, we have to reflect back on what we've talked about before on the show, Vinny, and that is that there are three personas in a person's life. There's a public persona of this bike rider and this person that's athletic and out there and winning and just seems to have the whole world by the tail. Then there's this private side where maybe some of the goofiness surfaces, but those closest to him are the only ones that really get to see that. But then there's this private side that only a few people, usually the participants in these relationships, know about. So I'm not ready to jump and say she didn't have these private relationships, these secret relationships going on that could have led to something like this. But when we talk about whether this is a triangle or bigger, I think this thing really starts to boil down to the fact of the evidence that we're starting to see roll out, like the CCTV camera footage that puts her vehicle there. The fact that she tells a friend earlier, I'm really angry, I could kill this person. The fact that she's tracking and knows that her boyfriend is out with this woman, driving by a minute later, the fact that she has a gun and she's been practicing with that weapon, and the weapon's recovered at a place that she has domicile, and it's already been confirmed that it matches the bullet casings that are found in the victims' homes. Those are huge things to overcome, and to me keep taking us back to a triangle, not something bigger.
Yeah, and when you think about what that press conference that the defense had, and it's good to hear from the other side. I encourage defense attorneys to speak ahead of time because, us as the media reporting and talking about these stories, we can only talk about the information that's released. And we always want to know both sides of the story when they exist. It seems their focus is going to be on what was going on in Mo Wilson's life, whereas the prosecution is really more focusing on what's going on in Kaitlin Armstrong's life.
Yeah, why didn't Kaitlin Armstrong report that vandalism, or Colin Strickland report that vandalism the night the police were there? That's really troubling to me. And I'll tell you what, if you want somebody with motive to go back and vandalize Strickland's apartment, if she caught him out with another woman and that was infuriating to her, she could be responsible for the vandalism for all we know.
Very valid point. Could it be she vandalized the house and lied and said somebody else did it? She wanted to make it look like somebody else was bothering them, harassing her. So she vandalized the house. You have seen psychotic people vandalize their own car and home, scratch themselves, hurt themselves, superficial marks to make it seem like they were attacked. Someone was bothering them, harassing them, stalking them. Could this woman be this diabolical? Besides a murderer, she would construct things to make it look like there's an outside party stalking them, bothering her. As I said, why not call the police to say? That's a big, big question. Hey, somebody just vandalized our home. What was vandalized exactly? Somebody kicked in a door, vandalized a door, mailbox, windows. Were windows broken? What was the vandalism? See, all these little things that's left out. Open-ended scenarios. Is this woman diabolical? Diabolique. The gun to me is crazy. Driving by the house or going to the house is crazy. Knowing people have cameras. She didn't think this through. And now to use your defense to implicate an innocent person is even more treacherous. But we've had this happen. The Casey Anthony story. Baez gave you a little of this and a little of that to create doubt. And it worked. Even with the evidence against Casey Anthony, 12 members still said, let her go. Let her go. And that's all the defense has to do in a murder trial, is to create doubt. Another suspects. and people start talking and whispering and start hypothesizing and conspiracy theories. And before you know it, they have ignored the evidence against the defendant. Thank you for joining. Very wicked.
Be a successful outgoing couple.
Oops, sorry about that. Oh, boy. Jumped off.
The Austin Police Department seemingly ignore a tip about the former boyfriend.
Let me see. I think I
of
might
Miss
have
Wilson.
gone.
Why
Up a
did the
little
Austin
ways.
Police Department present inaccurate and misleading information?
Absolutely, you got to keep looking at the possibilities. There are so many things we don't know.
Warrant of Miss Armstrong.
Her boyfriend, who she lived with, apparently spent the day with Mo Wilson, and then she was murdered that night. Police investigated Kaitlin Armstrong.
Let me make sure I've
She took off.
gone too far up. Hold on one second, you guys.
That is evidence of every. I'll be honest with you, I don't know his name. I mean, he's the ex, and you know, there apparently was a tip, and we'll see if any of that is released. I'll guarantee you, though, it'll show up at the trial. We will hear about this at the trial. I'm just wondering.
I think I've gone up a little too far. Hold on one second. I'll make sure I got everything here. Thank you for your patience.
What we've talked about before on the show, Vinny, and that is that there are three personas in a person's life. There's that public persona of this bike rider and this person that's athletic and out there and winning and just seems to have the whole world by the tail. Then there's this private side where maybe some of the goofiness surfaces, but those closest to him are the only ones that really get to see that. But then there's this private side that only a few people, usually the participants in these relationships, know about. So I'm not ready to jump and say she didn't have these private relationships or these secret relationships going on that could have led to something like this. But when we talk about whether this is a triangle or bigger, I think this thing really starts to boil down to the fact of the evidence that we're starting to see roll out, like the CCTV camera footage that puts her vehicle there. The fact that she tells a friend earlier, I'm really angry, I could kill this person. The fact that she's tracking and knows that her boyfriend is out with this woman, driving by a minute later, the fact that she has a gun and she's been practicing with that weapon, and the weapon's recovered in a place that she has domicile, and it's already been confirmed that it matches the bullet casings that are found in the victims' homes. Those are huge things to overcome, and to me keep taking us back to a triangle, not something bigger.
Yeah, and when you think about what that press conference that the defense had, and it's good to hear from the other side. I encourage defense attorneys to speak ahead of time because, you know, us as the media reporting and talking about these stories, we can only talk about the information that's released, and we always want to know both sides of the story when they exist. It seems their focus is going to be on what was going on in Mo Wilson's life, whereas the prosecution is really more focusing on what's going on in Kaitlin Armstrong's life.
Yeah, why didn't Kaitlin Armstrong report that vandalism, or Colin Strickland report that vandalism the night that police were there? That's really troubling to me. And I'll tell you what, if you want somebody with motive to go back and vandalize Strickland's apartment, if she caught him out with another woman and that was infuriating to her, she could be responsible for the vandalism for all we know. But how do you get away from the fact that she's pointed right to that location within a minute of that homicide occurring, and I don't think Mo Wilson's previous boyfriend was anywhere near the place.
Yeah, that's, the defense tosses it out there. I've seen it many times in a trial where they bring it up, but all of a sudden then the jury, though, is curious. They want to know more. And it seems what they're doing is saying, listen, investigators didn't even look there. And and I'm wondering if they're going to go more along the lines of, listen, there is some evidence here. You've got to understand what's going on here. Or, hey, you got a tip about this, but you didn't do anything about it. Like, can you follow every single tip in a case? And should you follow every single tip in a case if all the information that you are gathering, like investigators are saying here, keeps pointing in one direction?
Yeah, I think you got to follow this thing where it's taking you, but you can't get tunnel vision. You can't make up your mind what happened in the case before you've really gathered all those facts. So absolutely, you got to keep looking at the possibilities. There are so many things we don't know. I don't know if they gathered any gunshot residue off of her hands the night they interviewed, or if they had anything else that they've uncovered that takes away from this suspect or this boyfriend that Mo had beforehand. Maybe they have cellular data that already says, hey, he was 100 miles away or in California. I don't even know where the guy lives, Vinny.
I don't know his name. I'll be honest with you, I don't know his name. I mean, he's the ex, and there apparently was a tip, and we'll see if any of that is released. I'll guarantee you, though, it'll show up at the trial. We will hear about this at the trial. I'm just wondering if we're going to hear about it before it all starts. Mike King staying with us. We've got a lot more to talk about in this case. We're going to go through the timeline of what happened that day, and does the defense theory fit into that timeline, or how would it fit into that timeline? Plus, coming up in the next hour.
All right. Brief intermission. Thank you all so much for joining me. What do you think so far? Did Kaitlin commit this crime? Is she the culprit? Or is it a possibility that there's somebody else? The thing about crime, police will not tell you everything. They will not give you all the ins and outs of the evidence that they have. That's to be expected. But right now, it doesn't look good in her favor. Why would you take shooting lessons? You're going to shoot somebody, you shoot them directly. Why do you need lessons? I found that strange. This leads me to think this girl was gone mentally, because I don't know why anyone needs to take shooting lessons. You're only going to be shooting one person. And why didn't she shoot the boyfriend? Just curious. Why not? Why the other woman, if indeed they weren't together?
The Austin Police Department seemingly ignored a tip about the former boyfriend of Miss Wilson. Why did the Austin Police Department present inaccurate and misleading information to a judge when seeking an arrest warrant of Miss Armstrong? Did the inexperience of two key officers assigned to this case play a role in its apparent mishandling? Who vandalized the home of Kaitlin Armstrong and Colin Strickland the night of Wilson's death?
The defense raising some questions. That is Kaitlin Armstrong. She is accused of the murder of Mo Wilson, her alleged love rival. Colin Strickland, her boyfriend who she lived with, apparently spent the day with Mo Wilson, and then she was murdered that night. Police investigated Kaitlin Armstrong. Next day, she took off, grabbed her down in Costa Rica, brought her back to the United States. She's now charged with murder. Let me bring back in our investigator, still with me, retired police commander, host of the Profile Evil podcast, Mike King, is in Salt Lake City tonight, and also joins Salt Lake City private investigator Jason Jensen. All right, Jason, let me ask you, if you're going to, and again, Rick Hofer, the attorney for Kaitlin Armstrong, raising some questions and some issues here, says, why didn't Austin police investigate Mo Wilson's former boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend? Well, if you were going to investigate, what would you do to investigate this former boyfriend based upon the so-called tip?
Well, clearly what they did is they followed the evidence that was really present at the crime scene. So, if you're going through the video, they see a vehicle that matches the description of Kaitlin Armstrong's vehicle. So that became their prime suspect. It was seen only a minute or two after Strickland had dropped off Mo at her place.
So, what would you do if you're going to, if they said, okay, Jason Jensen, and we need you to investigate the victim's former boyfriend. What are you going to do to figure out whether or not he's a viable suspect in all of this?
Well, sure, you're going to vet out all the other possibilities, because because, to have a proper case for the jury, you're going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there's no other suspects that could have done this terrible deed. So certainly I would imagine that they've explored all these other leads, and just wasn't made public because the only one that was really on the radar at that point was Kaitlin, who was a fugitive.
Now, Mike King, let's go through this timeline and see how it relates to this allegation of the vandalism. And is the vandalism of the home that was shared by the defendant and her boyfriend, could it have been vandalized? Could it have been connected to this former boyfriend who they're saying maybe committed the murder, whatever his name is? 5:45, Strickland says he picks up Wilson from Cash's house. Cash is Mo's friend who lives locally in Texas. That's who she's staying with. 5:55, Cash receives electronic door notification that the door is locked. 8:16, Strickland and Wilson leave the parking lot of Pool Burger on Strickland's motorcycle. So they got something to eat. 8:16, they're leaving the parking lot. 8:26, 10 minutes later, Armstrong's vehicle drives northbound on Maple Avenue, then westbound on East 18th. 8:35, 9 minutes later, Strickland drives northbound through the alleyway north of East 18th Street on his motorcycle. 8:36, this is key, the unique code given to Wilson is used to unlock Cash's door. So she then enters the home. 8:37, Armstrong's vehicle appears to stop at Cash's residence. Okay, let me ask you, Mike King, when would the killer have done the vandalism? Before the murder or after the murder, which takes place at some point after 8:36?
Yeah, I guess both are possibilities, aren't they? But if it was before, I think Strickland would have been reporting a burglary at his home when he got home, because he gets home before Armstrong returns back to the residence. That thing continues to bug me, and I love the fact that you put this timeline so succinctly, because we see that 5:55 time when Mo Wilson walks out the door and locks it and goes off with Strickland. They do their thing, they run around, he drops her off, and then a minute later, this is either pure luck,
right,
or she was being followed by Armstrong.
Yes,
and it could be pure luck, who knows. But we have other documented times where Strickland is seen driving away from the residence at the time that Armstrong is pulling up. Again, he gets home before any of this happens. If that burglary had occurred or that vandalism, criminal mischief, he would have probably been making some phone calls. But holy smokes, Vinny, once the police show up to question her, they would have been shouting out, hey, our place was busted into too.
Yeah,
exactly. There's some unanswered questions here, these allegations. Jason Johnson, is it possible, let's say the vandalism did happen that night, could it be two different people? Is it outrageous to think that the vandalism is not connected to the murder?
Well, that would just be the world's biggest coincidence in light of what's going on here. It's like there's a murder, we both know who was murdered, and we were a victim of a break-in and vandalism. It makes you really wonder if the vandalism was staged to make it look like there was a vandalism.
Yes.
Like, for instance, we know that Armstrong's gun was found at the residence. It's supposed to appear to be like someone broke in, stole her gun, used the gun, and then brought the gun back. I guess, it's going to be a very exciting moment when this all comes out in trial. But what I see from Armstrong's attorney's press conferences, he's doing his job to do his best to get to represent his client, to make sure that she's going to have a fair trial, because all the evidence seemed to be really piled up against Armstrong, and this is his moment. He had the camera, the media attention, and to create some doubt out there in hopes that he's doing his best that he can for his client at the time of trial.
Yeah, we shall see how all this develops in front of the jury. That will be crucial in all of this. Mike King, Profiling Evil podcast. Make sure you download it, folks. It's amazing. Thanks so much, Jason Jensen, staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about jealousy. Was jealousy the motive in all of this? Is this a love triangle? Is it a love rectangle? What exactly is going on? Why? As to Colin Strickland has some sort of a relationship with. These.
I think Strickland would have been reporting a burglary at his
Hold on
home
one
when
second.
he got home, because he gets home
Start touching
before
all this.
Armstrong returns back to the residence.
Let me go back. Make sure I've gone. Let's see. Oh.
Mo Wilson, professional gravel and mountain bike racer. She had kind of just started being at the top level, and at 25 years old, for sure, her career was just getting started. So it's so tragic for her to be taken from us so early in her life like that.
Mo Wilson was the real deal, an amazing athlete who decided to get into this niche of biking and just was so good so quickly. And that's just part of her life, right, as being a biker. But I mean, everything else we've heard about her, really just an amazing human being. And to be taken from this earth at age 25 in such a violent manner is outrageous. But now we're going to have a trial, and it's going to happen this October. Kaitlin Armstrong is the one who has been charged with her murder, her alleged love interest. Let me bring in my guest, still with me, private investigator Jason Jensen. Joining me now in New York City, psychotherapist, host of Talking Live on Facebook Watch and the Bite Side podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig is with us. And on the other in Los Angeles, California, psychology professor, America's relationship expert, Dr. Wendy Walsh is with us. She's also, of course, Court TV alum. All right, great to have everyone here. I want to read part of the affidavit from an interview that was done with Colin Strickland, right? The man in the middle of this so-called love triangle. Strickland advised while he and Armstrong, the defendant, the accused murderer, were dating, Armstrong called Wilson, the victim, on the phone, telling Wilson she was the one who was dating Strickland. Strickland told Detective Spittler he had to change Wilson's name in his phone so Armstrong does not know who he is speaking to as they continue their relationship. Strickland admitted he had to change Wilson's name in his phone because Armstrong had blocked Wilson's number in Strickland's phone. Strickland, again, Colin Strickland, also advised he had to delete text messages on his phone to prevent Armstrong from finding them. And Strickland had lied about his whereabouts to Armstrong to hide that he was with Wilson throughout the evening. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, what are your thoughts about the level of this alleged jealousy that was taking place here? All the things that Colin Strickland is doing to kind of keep Kaitlin away from finding out about classic love triangle.
Oh, this thing keeps jumping. Let's stop there. Why lie? You don't have anything to do with this Wilson lady who's now deceased. You're not seeing her. You're not dating her. Was it just platonic? He just wanted to take her to lunch, take her to dinner? Were they still messing around? Because as Mr. Mike has said, Mr. Mike King, you can't say what people are doing and not doing. You don't know people. You don't know what people are doing. Anybody could say, no, I'm not dating anybody. No, I'm not seeing him or her anymore. Well, he's been lying. So why couldn't Miss Wilson be lying to her friends and family that she was dating him? Maybe she had problems and realized she didn't want people to know that she was still seeing him, still interested in him. She didn't want to be judged. And I think it's crass if he was still messing with Armstrong, living with her. Obviously, he was just said in this commentary, they were still living together up until the murder. So why are you seeing this woman? Why are you deleting her text? Why are you putting a different name in your phone? That sounds like somebody who has something to hide. And if you wanted to be friends with her, then you should just tell Miss Armstrong, look, I know you don't like that I messed with her while we were off or whatever, but I like her. We're friends. We're just friends. There's nothing going on. But if he really cared for Armstrong, he wouldn't be talking to this other woman at all, Mo Wilson. You know she's upset. You know she's probably still jealous. jealous of whatever you all had. You found out about it. Probably was tracking your phone last fall. You want to die a problem down. You stop communicating with the other person. You have no reason to be talking to this woman. You have no reason to be taking her to lunch, taking her to dinner. You just was sleeping with her months before, allegedly. I got a funky feeling he's been sleeping with Mo all along. From the moment they hooked up until this year, 2022, he was probably still having sexual relations with that lady. He probably liked this lady. And for you to start hiding messages, deleting messages, putting different names in phones, you are still wrapped up with that person, and nobody's going to believe that you weren't, because the first thing a person is going to say is, well, why lie? Why delete text? Why put in a different number in the phone under her name, under her number? If you didn't have anything to hide, because you knew you couldn't tell Kaitlin, you still had contact with her, that you liked her, you're digging her, God forbid, in love with her, but you didn't know how to let Kaitlin go. And that's where the problem lies with Colin Strickland. He was not man enough to own his part in dealing with everybody in the circle. He should have bailed out from Kaitlin a long time ago. He's like most people, and she too. You keep holding on, having hope the person's going to change. It's going to work itself out. It's going to get better. It usually doesn't get better because there's something there that isn't right. And both of them knew this. And the fact that they're telling you in this commentary they were going back and forth for years tells you something was off between these two. And they both held on for whatever reason. But they both should have folded. It's not working. Sorry. I like you. I love you. But we're not compatible. I'm not happy. I want to date other people. Whatever the situation was. He should have been the one to tell her it's not working. She should have said the same thing. I'm not going to put one over the other. Hey, it's not working. I'm not happy. I'm not getting what I need from you. You're not being truthful with me. You're seeing somebody else. You've been lying to me. That should have been the deal breaker for Miss Armstrong. And I got a sneaky suspicion that Mo was not his first love interest. I got a feeling that's what was going on years ago when they kept going back and forth, back and forth. That's why I said when they were going back and forth, who was living where? Because they had a break in October, allegedly. Well, we're not even a full year yet to October 2022. So where was each one staying on the break? Stay woke. Were they still living in the same house? Imagine having a break, but you're in the same damn house. Still attracted to that person, but we're not talking, we ain't touching, we ain't sleeping in the same room. Nothing. No sex, no nothing. But we're just paying bills. Is that what was going on between Strickland and Armstrong? And then they met up again and said, okay, let's make this work one more time. But oops, he's got feelings for Mo Wilson. He can't tell Miss Armstrong that. Because he probably has seen she's wacko, and she's probably been following him for the past couple of years, tracking his whereabouts. She's probably showed up to other places he's been, and I got a sneaky suspicion she's been tracking him, as I said, for years. She was tracking him back in October. That's probably how she found out about her. One, did she ever confront the woman? Did she ever catch them together? So you have to ask all those questions. I haven't heard anything about that. Her confronting Mo or catching them together. What did she tell him when she found out? Or did he tell her, hey, I like this lady, blah, blah, blah. But if they weren't together, he didn't order no explanation. So how did all that really go? I'm curious. I got a feeling, as he said in his commentary, Mr. King, she tracked them that night. She put a tracker on his phone. She found them. She went off. She'd been following that woman too. Bingo card. And found her at that location, this cash person's house. I don't know if it's a guy or a female. And knocked on the door. This woman possibly foolishly let her in, because how did she get in? You didn't hear anything else about a door reopening. Because it says, oh, the door, the person's phone, cash phone, gave an alert that the door was locked, which would have been Miss Smoke coming home. But did it show the door reopen? Because how did Armstrong get in to shoot her? the door would have to have been reopened if she was found dead inside of the house. They left that part out of this commentary. How did Armstrong get into the said residence to kill Mo Wilson? Thank you for joining me this Everyday Shenanigans. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $McGanty 129 Cash App. This is some wicked, wicked stuff. Hold on. Get to where all the people are meeting up and talking. I think I jumped a bit. Let me see.
God, you're really just an amazing human being. And to be taken from this earth at age 25 in such a violent manner is outrageous. But now we're going to have a trial, and it's going to happen this October. Kaitlin Armstrong is the one who has been charged with her murder, her alleged love interest. Let me bring in my guest, still with me, private investigator Jason Jensen. Joining me now in New York City, psychotherapist, host of Talking Live on Facebook Watch and the Bite Side Podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig is with us. And on the other...
Sorry. Wi-Fi circling. It's that time of night. Thank you all for your patience. Oh, well. Having a little issue here. Well, it would start to circle. Buff right near the end. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can.
Great to have everyone here. I want to read part of the affidavit from an interview that was done with Colin Strickland.
Recapping what I've just
in the middle of
explained.
the
Thank
so-called
you.
love triangle. Strickland advised while he and Armstrong, the defendant, the accused murderer, were dating, Armstrong called Wilson, the victim, on the phone, telling Wilson she was the one who was dating Strickland. Strickland told Detective Spittler he had to change Wilson's name in his phone so Armstrong does not know who he is speaking to as they continue their relationship. Strickland admitted he had to change Wilson's name in his phone because Armstrong had blocked Wilson's number in Strickland's phone. Strickland, again, Colin Strickland, also advised he had to delete text messages on his phone to prevent Armstrong from finding them. And Strickland had lied about his whereabouts to Armstrong to hide that he was with Wilson throughout the evening. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, what are your thoughts about the level of this alleged jealousy that was taking place here? All the things that Colin Strickland is doing to kind of keep Kaitlin away from finding out about his continuing some sort of a relationship with Mo Wilson.
Well, Strickland was clearly being sneaky because if you're in a healthy relationship and your partner doesn't like you talking to an ex-girlfriend or somebody you used to see romantically, then you say, okay, I'm not going to talk to this woman anymore because it's disrupting our relationship.
Exactly.
Clearly, Strickland wanted to continue his relationship with Wilson, and Armstrong knew it. It sounds like she had a fear of abandonment anyway, but she was plugging into a relationship that was clearly happening, and Armstrong or Strickland refused to give up Wilson. He didn't want to give her up, and I highly doubt it was just friends. It was probably something more.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Wendy Walsh, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because the statements that have been released from Mo Wilson's parents and friends, everything that she was telling her friends was that she was not in a relationship at that time. But we've got Colin Strickland saying that he's having some sort of a relationship with Mo Wilson. So what do we think the truth is here, and how do we figure out what the truth is? Do we trust Colin Strickland and what he's telling investigators?
Well, I think Dr. Robbie is flat on. First of all, if you're having an affair with somebody who's in a relationship with somebody else, there's a moral dilemma there. So you certainly don't tell your mother about that. You certainly don't tell even some of your closest friends, because maybe there's some shame around it.
Exactly.
And I want to remind everybody, whether they were continuing their physical relationship, which they say they had last fall, it doesn't matter, because clearly the emotional connection was there. They were seeing each other, they were socializing with each other. And when it comes to women and jealousy, the emotional connection for many women is far more threatening than a physical relationship, because they know where a man's heart goes, his whole body and his wallet may follow. And so this is far more threatening to women. I think they were definitely involved. And I think this was a case of extreme sexual jealousy.
And Jason Jensen, investigators should be able to figure out the nature of the relationship, whether you're digging through text messages or just finding witnesses who maybe saw them together that last day, either swimming or at the burger joint.
Right. Clearly, this is classic signs and behavior of an affair. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, how many people were aware of it?
Exactly.
Definitely all the sneakiness, all the hidden names on contacts, deleting text messages, lying about his whereabouts.
Yes.
All of that feeds into jealousy if you're in a relationship. And this was clearly an established one between Strickland and Armstrong. They were sharing a home together. So if you're lying about that and sneaking around to do it, it leaves people to let their minds wonder how much more is going on than what you're just sharing with me. And if he's caught texting somebody and deleting it, it just really makes it even that much worse with your partner that you're sharing a life with. So with that all being admitted by Strickland that these things are deleted, the best they're going to hope to get is whatever's on Mo Wilson's phone, or what maybe was shared to their closest friends out there. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they can actually recreate versus how much they had to rely on Strickland to become forthright from where he originally was kind of keeping these things on the lowdown.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, the closest that Colin Strickland has come to cheating on Kaitlin Armstrong is when he invoked the Ross from the Ross and Rachel relationship excuse, which was, yeah, I saw her, but we were on a break.
Yeah,
and we'll see what the evidence ends up showing at trial.
Exactly.
Jason Jensen, thanks so much. Appreciate your time today. Great to see you. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, Dr. Wendy Walsh staying with us. We've got a lot more coming up. Plus, next hour, we'll take a look at this. And
all right. Were they on and off in the fall? How many times have they been on and off during their relationship? How long have they been together total, even with the on and off? Was he ever going to leave Armstrong alone? Just cut her off and be done with it. Why didn't he? If indeed he was still talking to this woman, dating her, which we already know that he has because they were seen at a restaurant together, why not just tell Armstrong, I still like this lady. I can't get over her, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. And then move on. I believe the result will still have been the same. If indeed evidence shows that Armstrong killed Mo Wilson, she would have done it anyway. Whether he snuck around seeing Mo or he cut off Armstrong, she definitely would have killed her had he cut her all the way off. Because imagine she's killed her and they're still living together, but he's sneaking around seeing Mo. So she still would have killed her. See where I'm going? Had he cut her off. Because I believe she was tracking him. I believe she was also probably following this woman, watching her, doing things, following her to different places, businesses, restaurants, work. Sorry, I'm a little dark back there. I believe she was trailing this woman. She was trailing him. And that's the thing about this whole situation. Who wants to live like this? Who wants to be looking at people's phones, thinking they're cheating on you? Walking around, spending your every waking moment worrying about what he's doing, what she's doing. Why would you want to live like that? That's a terrible place to be. That's why I said this BS that was going on between these two, it should have ended years ago. The fact that they said that they were on and off for years shows you he was not into Armstrong fully. Because you can't keep going back and forth, back and forth. There's something wrong there. And they both should have acknowledged that something was missing in their relationship. And it could be possibly that he liked other women. He liked to put his pee-pee in places it didn't belong. Who's to say? Who's to say that this hasn't been the thing that's kept them back and forth? Infidelity. I don't know. But in this case, he was with this woman in the fall. He liked her. He still liked her. He saw her night of her death. So he still liked her. And you have two other opinions saying it looks like he was still interested in her. They still were dating. And like they said, doesn't matter if you're just talking to her, you're still having sex with her. Doesn't matter. You're still dealing with her. And you should not have been Mr. Strickland. You can't live with this woman over here and think she's not going to be wondering where you are, where you're going. She's been tracking you this whole time. And this was the boiling point when she found you with that lady. And as I said, it's no telling how long this had been going on between all of them. And it doesn't matter if Armstrong dated somebody in the fall. We don't have proof to that. That's possibly his version, Mr. Strickland, because he's not going to want to tell the whole truth because that woman is now dead. So he's not going to want to tell the whole truth that, yeah, we still were having sex because he doesn't want to say anything bad about her and she's no longer alive and she can't defend herself. But as Vinnie Politan has said, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have records to show text messages between all three in the past year. Who was on first, who was on second, who fell off, who fell on, who recalled somebody. They're going to pull all that up. And it's going to show who all was still in the pot. And I got a funky feeling everybody was in the pot simultaneously. And unfortunately for Mo Wilson, she lost her life because she kept dealing with this guy who was a liar. Now you have to ask yourselves, what was he telling Mo Wilson? Let's say she really liked him. And she didn't want to let people know that she was still dating this guy, still interested. Was he telling her, yeah, I'm going to leave her. I'm going to leave her. You know, she's a little crazy. She's a little erratic. We've got a lot of history. I don't want to hurt her, but I really like you. You're pretty. You're this. You're talented. Just give me a little time. Break it off with her. I got to be easy with her. See, we don't even know what he was telling Mo. The fact that he says he was erasing text messages tells you everything you need to know. Why would you be doing that if you already have a whole woman over here and you were living with a whole woman? What are you doing over here talking to her? What are you doing erasing messages, putting different names onto her number? Because you were still invested in Mo Wilson, and you need to own that. There's no need in trying to cover up the truth to save yourself and save her. She's dead. The truth's going to come out in court because her phone records are going to be seized, and all that's going to come out. Every text, every whatever they can find, letters, whatever, apps, anything she searched, all that's going to come out in court. Everything you've done, that's going to come out. Everything Miss Armstrong, all that's going to come out. Any confrontations between you all, and exactly what was seen the night of when he took her to the burger joint, took her to the swimming pool. Was he hugging on her, kissing on her, patting on her, hitting her fanny, rubbing her hair, stroking her, kissing her? Who's going to be the one to come forward and say, yeah, they were holding hands. Yeah, they were kissing. Yeah, they were hugging. Yeah, they were affectionate. What are you going to say in court? Nothing. Oh, I thought that was just your friend. Mr. Armstrong. He's going to be called to testify. He's a main part of this story. How could he not be called to testify? Will he tell the truth on the witness stand? How about that? Or will he continue to lie He should know by now they've been digging detectives. No need to continue to lie. Just tell the truth. Is he in love with the decedent? Is that what this was about? Wasn't just sex, camaraderie, like habits and interests. Was Strickland in love with Mo Wilson? That's why he couldn't cut her off. Probably never cut her off. He just changed her name in the phone as to not alert Miss Armstrong. Did you think she had called that number blocked? And Wilson answered. And she realized, oh, this is a woman. Did she ask, are you such and such? Did she reply? See, your mind can go 1,000 ways with a story like this. The coulda, woulda, shoulda, what if, what if, what if. It's a terrible place to be in when you're not chosen. I can speak from experience. I'm a woman. To not be the one. Or as that guy that wrote that book said, he's just not that into you. Possibly this is what was going on. He had history with Armstrong, but he wasn't into her. She was what was comfortable. And this happens every day in relationships. People ride the wave with people, stay with them, live with them, but they're not happy. They really don't want them. They don't even really probably need them. It's there, something to do. It's a little clutch security blanket. Is that what was going on with these people? They both using each other as a safety net. Maybe split the bills. Expensive to live in certain places. But is it worth it in the end to just have that security net? You're not happy, they're not happy. I don't hear either parties having children. The decedent, Mr. Strickland, or Armstrong. Thank God. Thank God. We don't have any children in this storyline. Because look at the behavior of everybody involved. Everybody's sneaking around, scurrying around, deceiving one another, thyself, all for what? A little hanky-panky. Because look what happened in the end. This can't be considered true love by all the participants because we've got one dead, one incarcerated, and a guy who ain't really talking. And the fact that he's not talking because he knows he's been a deceiver. He's broken this woman's heart, and she went off the deep end and killed Mo Wilson. And that's something he has to sleep with. And it's not saying he's fully blamed because he didn't pull the trigger, let's say, but you deceived someone and possibly told her you love her, Miss Armstrong. She continued to hold on with hope that things would work out between you two, but you still were messing around with that girl and you liked her. And you owed Armstrong the truth. And you owed yourself the truth. And you owed Mo Wilson the truth. Now you have to carry the burden around of knowing you're lying and deceiving all parties got this chick dead. How can you ever explain that? Apologize to someone or family? You can't. You should have left Armstrong a long time ago. Armstrong should have left you a long time ago. And frankly, if Mo was in it for whatever reasons, because we can't say, she's not here, she should have left you alone too. Because indeed, if she was still dating you since fall, up until her death, then she rode the wave to her own demise, not knowing this chick was going to pop off and kill her. And that's why I asked, Did she see signs beforehand that Armstrong was not dealing with a full deck? We will later find that out during trial. Any evidence of there being a confrontation, words, texting, threats, whatever. As far as the house being vandalized, why wasn't it not reported to law officials? Did Armstrong indeed vandalize the home she shared with Strickland, as to make it look like somebody else is doing some devious deeds? Why did she kill this woman, then take the gun and leave it back at the house? Why didn't she dispose of it, throw it out? See, this woman was not dealing with a full deck. Because most people throw out a weapon. They don't take it home and hide it in the house or put it back in the drawer or put it back in the cupboards. You throw it out. The hell are you going to take it home for? So that lets you know Armstrong is gone up here. She fell off rails. She knew what she was doing, but she was still gone. Changing appearance, fake IDs, running upstate and running to Costa Rica, wherever, as if she ain't done nothing. She had to know she's going to get caught. She had to know somebody's going to see her. They have Wi-Fi, YouTube, the news, internet in a foreign country. What the hell was she thinking? What is going on with Mr. Strickland? That's what I'd like to know. How does he feel now? All that deceiving and lying, sneaking around, got this girl dead. Did he know that this woman was diabolical? Did she ever threaten to kill her? Did she ever tell him, I'll kill her, I'll hurt her, I'll do this, I'll kill myself, I'll kill you? How about that? I'll kill you. I love you. What are you doing with her? What do you want with her? What she got, I ain't got. What she have, I don't have. I'm sure they've had that conversation. Many women have probably had that. Many women have probably thought that. What is it about her that he likes? I've been with you longest. What do you need her for? Why you want her? I wonder if she's asked him that. Did he reply? What was it about Mo Wilson? Why did he continue to deceive himself, Armstrong, and this lady? Did he ever tell this lady he would be with her? Just hold on a little while. Did he tell Armstrong the same thing? Just hold on a little while. I love you. It's nothing. It's over with. You see where lying gets you? Where deceiving people gets you? It can get you killed. It can get someone else killed. And this possibly, as I said, would have been the end result had he left Armstrong in the fall months ago. Because her mind was already tainted. She had murder on her mind. She killed that lady and then ran off, which shows guilt to me. When I get more information, update to the story, I will bring you the said commentary. As you see, her defense is bringing in another participant, throwing this man under the bus. And let's talk about that in the next live. How does this other guy feel to be thrown under the bus as a fourth wheel, as a second suspect? How does he feel? Where does he live? Where is he now? Is he dating anyone? Married anybody? Children? Imagine having your name thrown out here as a possible suspect when you may not have even seen the person, talked to the person, called the person. How is that guy feeling to know he's been used as a pawn into this diabolical love triangle to try to get Armstrong off? And mark my words, better hope it doesn't work. Because all you need is one gullible juror, one empathizer. Hang the jury. Hang the jury. Thank you for joining. You all have a wonderful week. This is Everyday Shenanigans.